Hello guys, I'm Lars Stender. I'm here to read from my book, Mandigo and Hellhounds. I'm from Denmark and I specialize in writing science fiction and fantasy stories. And if you want to follow my other work and know more about me, just to click in on Twitch. And Stephen Ray also goes down in the Soulless and he will show you all the ropes. Mandigo and Hellhounds, Chapter 16. Breakfast was served in a great hall. Montero himself, naturally, sat at a place of honor together with a portly, elderly man with white hair and a beard, and an almost sickly, thin and withered woman with long, wispy dark hair, a narrow face and pointed chin. The white-bearded man sat to the right of Montero, while the woman sat to his left. This trio was flanked by, all in all, 12 young and beautiful people at the place of honor. There were 6 on each side. Mandigo estimated a group of 12 to be approximately 18 to 20 years of age, and they sat with straight postures, observing those present with an odd and intense gaze that filled Mandigo with disquieting sensation. The tables in the great hall formed a U-shape, in which the table of honor was positioned at the bottom of the U. The carpenters of the fortress and the soldiers' officers sat on the left-hand side, while Mandigo and the other novices and the fortress staff were seated on the right. Casper directed Mandigo towards a bench down at the end of the table and sat down next to him. Jasper squeezed himself in opposite Mandigo. Mandigo gazed at the food on the table. There were bowls with porridge, bread, cheese, butter, marmalade, and honey, including pitchers with milk. He couldn't recall ever having seen so much food in one place. Montero had to be wealthy. At the same time, he was also the man who had sent the dangerous and scary Shrulocks to Greta and Bellatrix. So what was this really all about? There were 2 big fireplaces in the great hall, and a fire blazed in each of them. The windows were made of real glass, and the sun's rays streamed in like pale, crossed fingers in the air below the beam ceiling. The cold granite boulder walls were decorated with coats of arms, old weapons, and banners, and some enormous tapestries, the sight of which reminded Mandigo of the warning that he had received from the strange spirit in the night. He had not yet had time to talk with Casper about that experience. It would have to wait till later, he decided. He didn't know whether it had been a ghost or something entirely different. Greta had told him about ghosts, spirits, and the undead, but he did not know which category the strange ghost that had sought him out belonged to. Maybe the whole thing had been a dream. He wasn't sure of anything right now. A murmur of voices could be heard around the room as everyone found their seats and exchanged morning greetings with one another or talked about the blizzard. Only Montero and the others at the table of honor remained silent. Suddenly, Mandigo became aware that Montero was watching him. At first, Mandigo lowered his eyes, but then something made him straighten and return the gaze. Montero seemed to find Mandigo's attempt at self-assertion amusing, for in the next moment he smiled and stood up. He was wearing a doublet and trousers made of expensive blue-black velvet, and he carried a thick white cape made of Arctic fox about his shoulders, making him almost resemble a king. He wore a glittering jeweled belt about his waist, and on his thigh there hung a sheath in which there was a long dagger, with a pommel displaying a large ruby. It became silent in the great hall, and everyone's eyes were on Montero. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, his hand pointing in Mandigo's direction. "Let me present you to my new apprentice, Mandigo of Oak Hill. Stand up, Mandigo, and let everyone see who you are. As of this day, consider yourself a part of the Bloodstone Wizards Academy." Mandigo blushed slightly and got up slowly, unused to this kind of attention. He sensed more than he saw how everyone's gaze in the hall turned towards him, but the only people that seemed friendly to him were Casper and Jasper. He happened to look over the other dining table, where some of the officers had been sitting with their backs to him, and who now turned to look at him. He gasped. They weren't humans. Their monstrous heads resembled scrawny skulls, with outgrowth both on their temples and curves of their eyebrows. Their eyes were yellowish green and had no expression. Their noses were short and upturned, and their broad mouths had practically no lips, but contained a scary set of sharply pointed teeth. Their ears were small and positioned close to their heads, the skin of which was the same color as boiled veal. "Enjoy your breakfast," Montero said with a wolfish grin as he sat down. Everyone refocused on their breakfast. Soon the familiar sound of chit-chat resumed through the hall, as well as raw jests, and the sound of numerous people helping themselves heartily to the food and drink. Most of the people there had forgotten all about the mandigo. But not everyone. As he slowly sat back down, he could feel the intense gazes of Grimwald and his sister Helena as they observed him from the other end of the novice table. Mandigo took a deep breath and decided to do his best to ignore those two snobby wizard apprentices. He was still a bit shaken after having seen those creatures over the officers' table. "Whatever are they?" he asked Casper in a whisper. Casper gazed over the non-humans. "Oh, them! They're dracoids," he explained. "They are Mortel's mercenaries. They're strong, but stupid." Mandigo frowned. "Dracoids? Where do they come from?" Casper hesitated. "Actually, I really don't know. They've always been here. Sometimes some of them disappear. But when we wake up in the morning, they are always replaced by new ones." Jasper nodded towards the three central figures at the table of honor. "The fat one with the beard is Brumble," he said in a low voice. "He teaches languages and geography, and the other of speaking with creatures from other planes." "You mean other dimensions?" "Yes, that's it." "And the witch on the other side of the master is Verulia. She teaches potions, antidotes, and old curses." "How nice," Mandigo mumbled as he chewed on a roll with cheese and marmalade. He had discovered that despite the exceedingly strange setting, he was excruciatingly hungry, and so he ate heartily. Everyone had been given a big, thick piece of bread, which they used partly as plate and partly as a supplement for their meal. After having eaten this roll, Mandigo put some porridge and marmalade on his slice of bread and poured a big mug of milk for himself. After a while, he started noticing all the young and beautiful people who flanked Montero and his two assistant teachers at the table of honor. None of them said anything at any point, and yet it still seemed that they were constantly exchanging information with one another, with a small toss of the head, a certain look, a slight twitch, or an inconspicuous jerk of the body. They also ate in a strange way. Their manners were very proper and cultivated when they helped themselves to the food served on the various dishes. But as soon as the food was placed on their slice of bread, they would throw themselves on it like ferocious wild animals and swallow almost without chewing it. Their food was also different from what Mandigo and the other students were served. They had been given eggs and bacon, and some of them stopped themselves with roasted bones. "Who is sitting at the table of honor?" Mandigo finally queried. "They are the initiates," Casper whispered, with a touch of veneration in his voice. "They follow the master wherever he goes." "To be the initiate is one step below the master," Jasper added in the same tone. "First you are a novice, then an apprentice, then finally an initiate, and after that you can become the master." Mandigo lifted his eyebrows in surprise. He had no idea that there existed such a strict hierarchy in the world of magic. Greta had never mentioned it to him. According to her, there were only two categories, apprentice and master. Why had they divided in this way? "Grimwald and Helena and Alamut and Targo have just been selected as candidates," Casper explained further, nodding over to the four figures who, because of their newly stationed ranks, now sat closer to the table of honor than Mandigo and his friends. Mandigo followed the direction of Casper's nod and discovered then that Grimwald continued to stare at him, looking at him intently, with a cold hostility in his light blue eyes. End of chapter 6. So,
again, lots of new questions, lots of new things to go over. So now he was presented
Yes.
to the whole castle.
Yes.
We also got a glimpse of unnatural things.
Yes.
No doubt that everyone sees him as a threat other than his two new friends.
Yes.
That clearly is unpopular
Yeah.
between everyone.
Yeah.
Probably because they are not as good.
Mm.
Could be a chance. So they want to make new friends and make sure that new people are welcome.
Yeah.
And when they find somebody's not as arrogant, then they see an opportunity.
Yeah.
Let's see. We now understand the hierarchy and where Mandigo is placed now.
Yeah.
He's not too far
He
from the higher roles.
he's getting there, but he's still a novice, and he's still at the bottom of the ladder of rank. But what is interesting is that there is, I believe, you can feel in Montero's way of and his Montero's attitude that he has expectations for Montero.
Definitely. For Mandigo.
For Mandigo, yeah.
Because of how he looks at him and how he expresses.
Yeah.
But what I also was listening to is that even as he is the master, he can be changed out as well.
Yeah.
So there's no certainty he will stay there.
That's right.
So the question is, what will he become?
Yeah.
If he gets higher.
Yeah.
So there's definitely some outranking here that it doesn't matter who you are.
Yeah.
We don't care.
We don't care.
So it also always make people hungry to stay higher ranks.
Yeah.
Again, every thought I get.
Yeah.
Well,
this is like any boarding school. There is a hierarchy. There also not only a hierarchy in skill, defined by skill and age, but also by a hierarchy defined by intent.
Oh yeah. Normally also how long you've been there.
Yeah, exactly. So what I'm trying to put into this chapter is the feeling that Mandigo is entering a completely new world from what he has been experiencing or living in before.
Yeah.
And still, there's some of the same rules still apply.
Oh yeah. From his that time.
Yeah.
Not from
his time at Oak Hill and the village where he grew up.
Yeah.
But it's a kind of a more sophisticated game we are entering now.
Oh yeah. And where he's completely unaware.
Yeah. He is really a novice.
Yeah. So that was 3 good episodes.
Yeah, thank you.
And I think we can stop it here
Yep.
and get a little bit chit chat with the people.